To those who are new to Capital Pathways is a paid leadership program that opens a career policy pathway for BIPOC college students to help make our state more representative and more inclusive of our many diverse communities. When the program was first founded in 2016, we were the only program with this focus. And fast forward to today, we remain the only one. The only one. So yes, at times this may feel like very slow work, and at times it may feel lonely and like not enough progress is being made fast enough for us to see the changes that we want to see. But it's moments like these that we've gathered here today that remind us why we continue to do the work that we do. Moments like these that I'm reminded why and how hopeful and energizing it is to be in community with an amazing group of people who care about BIPOC youth and who also care about investing in the leadership so that we can continue to work on creating a more just and a more equitable future for every community in our state. Every day, you all in this room, you wake up and you have to choose how you're going to show up as yourselves. Today, you took it one step further and you made a choice to show up not just for yourself, but to also show up for others. So thank you for taking the extra step, and thank you for choosing to show up for our Capital Pathway students today. Throughout these past 5 months, I have had the great pleasure and also the great opportunity to get to work with and to get to know this year's student cohort. 32 BIPOC students from 11 different colleges and universities throughout the state of Minnesota. They entered our program hungry to learn about the policymaking process and how to use these learnings to make a positive impact for the communities. They were placed in internship experiences with 32 different host organizations, and they worked to advance critical and important policy issues across the board throughout the legislative session. From healthcare policy to education, to housing policy, and to so much more. And while they learned about policymaking, and they learned about how advocacy can impact legislation, and they began to develop their professional selves, their most important area of growth was in continue to invest in their sense of self, to find their place, and to develop their voice in the public policy space. This year's students are some of the most dedicated, strong, and compassionate group of young people I've had the honor to meet. They have such deep love and care for their communities, and they are called to use public policy as a tool to make a difference. And I am so proud of them, because participating in this program, and especially during these times, when we are still recovering from a pandemic, when we are seeing extreme partisan divides in policy, and we are experiencing racially motivated hate rhetoric and acts, choosing to participate in a program like Capital Pathways and to find their voice and to find their place in policy. It is hard and it is courageous work that they are engaging in. But it is work that is still so relevant today, and work that still calls strongly to them and to our BIPOC youth, because we are still living. We are still living in a world where the perspectives and the experiences of our BIPOC communities continue to be ignored and at times even erased. So there is still so much work to be done. And the burden of this work should not rest on our students, and it should not rest on the shoulders of our young people. This work requires everyone. It requires us all. It requires our intentional effort to come together and to push forward toward a shared vision of a more inclusive Minnesota. A Minnesota where all communities are more informed and more engaged in the process. Earlier, I thanked you for choosing to show up for our students today. And right now, I'm going to ask you to take a moment and think about why. Why are you here today? Is it because you are here as a friend, a family member, or maybe a supporter of the program? Hold on to the reason of why you are here. And I ask you to once again to choose to show up and to show up and join us in creating a better future for your reason to be here today. This event is a celebration of our students, and it's also an opportunity for you to invest in a future that is more diverse, that is more inclusive, and more reflective of our many different communities. After 7 program years, Capital Pathways has now opened policy access to 228. So 228 BIPOC students. So today we invite you to join us and play a part in changing the face of policymaking in the state of Minnesota. We are thrilled to celebrate our student cohort, and we are already thinking about how we could continue to extend this opportunity to more BIPOC youth, because the work never stops, and there is still so much left to be done. So, we have a goal of $10,000 to support our next student cohorts, legislative and professional development trainings. These trainings are so critical. They are so critical to developing and helping them understand the legislative process and to preparing them for their internships and their future careers. And we are already halfway to meeting our goal. I hope that you will consider making a contribution to invest in the next generation of BIPOC policy leaders and change makers. On your tables, you will find our printed program. It looks like this. And if you open it to the second page, you will see different options for you to give. And any gift of any amount matters. And it would truly go a long way to keeping the doors open and to keep breaking down barriers. So at the Citizens League, we are proud to have Capital Pathways be one tangible way for us to champion equity in our work and to model to others how they too can take action to advance a more representative policymaking space. Because representation is important and it matters. And we can change outcomes when people who are directly impacted by policy have a seat at the decision-making table. If this is something that you believe in, then join us in supporting Capital Pathways, and please continue to invest in the leadership of BIPOC youth, because we can do so much together with your support. So the choice is yours. And I hope you will continue to keep choosing to lean into. Is that my phone? Thanks, Adrian. Thanks, Blanca. Well, sorry about that, everyone. Well, I'm going to ask you to lean in to what you believe in, because every choice that you make, even if it may not seem that significant, or even if it may not even seem that impactful in the moment, it can truly add up one choice at a time to make all the difference in the long run. And with that, I'm going to move us along to the remainder of the program. And I'm honored to welcome our keynote speaker, Senator Melissa Franson, who is a leader we admire, a powerhouse, and a role model to our BIPOC youth and to us all. So everyone, please join me in giving Senator Franson a round of applause and welcoming her to the stage.
Thank you. Greetings, and I don't know why you need a keynote speaker, because everything you said, Kalia, is really why we're here and pretty much the speech I had written. I am so thrilled to be here, and I feel like it's a reunion. Quite frankly, I think it's been already 4 weeks out of session, I think, something like that. It feels like 4 years, but I digress. It feels like a reunion, not just some of our colleagues that do lobbying for many great issues in our legislature, but some of the sponsors that are here who are well known, and I do want to say thank you for being part of this program, because it does make a difference. And I will say, before I go to my prepared comments, one of the things, Kalia, that you said about showing up, well, when I was an intern in the public defender's office when I was in law school, my mentor there told me to show up. He said, that's half the battle. And I've taken that to heart and almost to my detriment, but that's the reason I'm here. I will have to leave really after my remarks to go take my kids to soccer, but I really wanted to be here. That's the other job that's really important in my life. It's a mom of two little rambunctious 5- and 6-year-old boys. So mommy has to take them to soccer, but this is too important. This work is extraordinarily important to me. I wouldn't be here had I not had internship opportunities like I did in the public defender's office, like I did when I was interned for the legislature for Tina Liebling, who is a representative still there. And she says, treat your interns well, because you never know when they'll become a senator. So, these opportunities open your eyes to pathways that you have no idea you'd be interested in. Frankly, because of that experience in the public defender's office, I realized I wanted to impact policy more than individual cases, but the knowledge that I gained from that is the knowledge that I brought to when we were talking about legislation around George Floyd's murder and how we could reform public safety. I remember that experience of being in the criminal defense side, and that actually helped a lot in shaping policy as a legislator now. But on to my prepared remarks, I want to say, first of all, good afternoon. And again, thank you for being here, and people that I haven't seen in a while. I'm so glad to see you. And it's been a while, so I'm glad to see so many great familiar faces and new faces as well. I am State Senator Melissa Lopez Franson. I'm also the Senate Minority Leader in the Minnesota Senate. I represent Senate District 49, which is Edina, Bloomington, Eden Prairie, and Minnetonka. And I'm honored to be here today with you to end your time in this program, but also welcome you to the next chapter of your future. We're constantly evolving. I myself, some of you know, I'm not running again after 10 years in the legislature, so I will be just like you, looking for that new chapter in my life, in my career in policy, because this is part of my DNA, and I'm sure you've probably have the hook now that you've been exposed to it as well. I'm grateful for the work that you've done. Even if the legislature came to an end that was not of probably anyone's pleasing, you all worked really hard. We worked with you in the Capitol and with the colleagues here today to move legislation forward. Some of it did become law. Some of it was around mental health parity. Some of it was around access to unemployment insurance, access to the frontline worker pay that we fought really hard for. So there was progress made, just not enough. Not enough in this moment, and not enough as Minnesotans are still struggling with high costs of fuel, and we're going into the summer months where, kids are home and they don't have that school that's going to support them with their lunches and with their snacks, and Some families are struggling, and we have to recognize that we are very, very lucky that we live in a great state that takes care of each other, and we could have done a lot more this legislative session. And I take full responsibility, but for our part. But we fought for this. We fought for many policies that we're going to continue to fight for Minnesotans, whatever party you're from. That is why we're elected to do this public service, is to do the work for the people. So I do want to say that I want to share with you the path of my public service, because it didn't start at all, even remotely close to Minnesota. I was born and raised in Puerto Rico, and my first language is Spanish. And I often joke that politics is a national sport in Puerto Rico. Some of you might already heard that. And I attended the university. In 3 years, I did my undergrad in Puerto Rico. And I ended up taking an internship over the summer in Ann Arbor, Michigan. It was a program designed to bring more people of color into public policy and international affairs, a PPIA program. So I went to Ann Arbor, Michigan around May, and it was cold for me. I bought a fleece jacket that was oversized because I was freezing. But I ended up meeting someone that some of you might know, Dr. Samuel Myers, who's a professor at the Humphrey Institute, and he recruited me. I just was in awe in his knowledge of policy analysis. His focus was race and equity and poverty and race, and he was just a marvelous scholar that I ended up working for him over the summer and took a scholarship to go to the University of Minnesota Humphrey Institute, where I did my master's in public policy. And there I met now my husband, Nathan. So that's how I ended up from Puerto Rico, Michigan, Minnesota, and the rest is history. But my first experience was in the program that I mentioned with Dr. Myers, and it was a program specifically just like Capital Pathways to bring more diverse voices into this industry, in this world, in this environment of policy and law. And I was hooked, right? So his research, Dr. Myers gave me in-depth research of Minnesota's communities of color and tensions and race and poverty and economic disparities in our communities. And you all know those have been exacerbated with COVID and with the murder of George Floyd, I already mentioned. And all these tragedies happen all over our country. And after I did that, I ended up going to the school, the Hamlin University School of Law. I did my law school degree there. And I ended up interning, like I mentioned, with Tina Liebling during my legislative internship program. Who would have known that you would later end up serving in the legislature a few years later? After law school, I took a job and working as an attorney at Target for about 8 years. I started I thought I wanted to be a real estate attorney, so in development, I quickly realized reading operation and easements agreements and negotiating approval rights was not so exciting. So I lobbied my way to government affairs and again, found myself immersed in policy and law. And when I was asked to run for office, which yes, I was asked, and most of you know that you have to ask a person, usually a woman, I don't know, it's like 10 or 12 times before she says yes. This person was a mentor and friend, Senator Patricia Torres Ray. She's the first Latina who was elected to the Senate. I'm the second. And I lived in Edina, and I told her she was crazy for thinking that I would run for office. But she knew that I was already active in the community when I moved to Minnesota, and while I was in the University of Minnesota Humphrey Institute, I did a lot of programs with on the west side. First of all, I tried to find where are the Latinos, so of course I ended up in the west side and found my plantains and my Goya products. But what I also found was community, and what I also found was my deep appreciation to work with community. You might call it activism now. Back then we called it volunteerism. Same thing. We worked to make sure that we remove disparities, that we would advocate for people. And I served on several boards, including El Fondo de Nuestra Comunidad. I've served on the CLUES board with Comunidades Latinas Unidas en Servicio and the Girl Scouts of Minnesota River Valleys. I was a Girl Scout as well in Puerto Rico, and a 4-H'er. So those were also great programs that kind of formed who I am today. So after that experience, I ended up running for office and saying to Senator Torres Ray, yes, I think I can do this. I'll do the work, but you need raised in a Republican or Democratic world, so I was never active politically at that point. And at that point, I didn't initially want to do it, but I was really frustrated with the thing that was called at the time the Tea Party, and I thought it was really divisive, and it wasn't getting in the way of getting sound policy, and I wanted to make things happen and be part of solutions, and it seemed like government couldn't get it right, couldn't get together and get things done, and it's still the same way, unfortunately. But I have done everything I can do to change that, to really push, to really bring voices of the underrepresented. Even in this last session when we were talking about the bonding bill, I will tell you that had I not been in the leadership role I was in, and we were debating about funding for the equity portion of the bonding bill, I was just blown away how that whole discussion came to be. And I did have to put my foot down about how to make sure that we have equitable resources for all of our communities. And I was glad to be there. And I realized that being there, I can't be the only one being in that room that has a diverse perspective. So it is critical that we not only think about running for office, and I'll ask you now, run for office if you have a chance, whether it's partisan or not, school board, local government, your voice is desperately needed because it's still the same people making the same decisions. So we need to change that, and I think this program just feeds that pipeline. So another little tidbit is when I ran back in 2012, I was 31, and by the time I got elected, I was 32. There had never been a woman, there had never been a Democrat, there had never been a person of color elected in this seat. So we flipped that seat, and it's been flipped for 10 years now. So I was very excited. And you might ask, how did you end up winning? You're not from here. How did you do this? Well, the first piece of advice is show up, do the work. And a piece of advice I got from Walter Mondale, Vice President Mondale, who I just got an award with his name and his wife's name just last week, which is a huge honor. But I remember meeting him and going to an event, and he was coming out of the event, and I saw him walking slowly, so it was like a groupie. I just ran to him and said, Vice President Mondale, my name is Melissa Franson. I'm running in Edina. What advice do you have for me? And he's just stopped on his tracks. It was like almost like, I have advice. And he said to me, you have to access to your constituents, you have to door knock. And when you're tired of door knocking, keep door knocking. And when you're tired of door knocking, keep door knocking. So I'm like, okay, I'll do that. And I door knocked the heck out of my district. I saw him again in a different event. I asked him the same question thinking he wouldn't remember me. And he gave me the same advice. So just this work comes with a lot of work and a lot of hours. And right now I have colleagues knocking on doors every single afternoon in the morning. I mean, that's how you get your word out. But it's also how you get to know people and community and know what they need. And when you talk about polling, the best polling is talking to people. So I think the work, if you're ever going to consider running for office, it's so rewarding, it's exhausting. But once you get to the doors and you start talking to people, it just kind of gives you this energy. And as you can tell, I love people, if you haven't noticed. So it just re-energized this work. And every time I think you hit a wall or you're saying, it's time to move on. And I'm not retiring because of this. Redistricting got me. But when you think about some of the times you want to say, is it worth it? It is absolutely worth it. My 10 years in the Minnesota Senate has been the thrill of my life. It's been my dream job. I'm going to miss it dearly. But as I said in the audience when I received an award recently, I said, I am not done yet. And I'm not saying I'm running for the next thing today, but I am not done yet. And you don't have to have an election certificate to impact public policy. All of us in this room can do that every day with our voices and our vote. So if you don't run, stay involved. So I became the first woman again, and the first person of color, not even woman, person of color to be a Senate leader in the Minnesota legislature. Thank you. And I didn't run because I wanted that title, right? I ran because I saw a need. I knew it was going to be a lot of work, and I thought I was the best person for the job. And I convinced my colleagues, and it was a three-way race with two other men running. Actually, it was three, but one stepped down. But regardless. And then after you win, you have to kind of find a way to bring everybody together. So I think women have a really good tact at getting people back together and trying to build that trust as a team. So it's been the most difficult job and also the most rewarding job. Again, I think the last 9 months, because I was elected in September, has felt more like 9 years, and it's been the most painful, but also the most rewarding. And someday maybe I'll write a journal on it, because the things that you see from a different lens just makes it all, brings a different perspective to this work that I think a lot of us should be able to see, and I want to be able to help support people who want to see them. After this, I'm also very active, continue to be very active with the legislative process, but also with other ways of giving back. I'm on the advisory board for the Hispanic Scholarship Fund. I'm a board member for the NALEO, National Association of Latino Elected Officials. I also serve as, like I mentioned, the Clues Board and Girl Scouts. And I was previously active nationally with Hispanic National Bar Association. I was elected deputy regional president. So I've always had kind of elections in my midst. My first election was actually when I was in college, and I ran for student body vice president. And then the president stepped down and I became president. So, you never know what's going to happen. We gave hot dogs away. I don't know if that was the way we got elected. I don't think that works right now. Although I did think it helped when I was trying to get my endorsement at the DFL. Food always brings people together. So now, again, I'm leaving the legislature, but before I left the legislature, I started my own business in public relations, and I have a firm called New Publica. Some of you I've known through that organization, and I've taken kind of a hiatus, kind of a silent partner with my business partner, taking the big toll. I go to the office, and sometimes I'm like, who are you? It's not a very big office, but we still bring new people, and we are focused on communities of color. That is our niche, making sure that we communicate effectively and make sure that their voices are part of the story when we talk about communities. And right now, like I said, I'm moving on, but I'm not stopping. And the work that I've seen as leaders to serve as the first BIPOC leader, I witnessed the growth of the BIPOC communities in the legislature, both on the staff level. Some of you are here, and both at the just legislative. There's been a huge group of women and men running in different parts of the state that are from BIPOC backgrounds and are winning. And that is changing the way we do business at the legislature. Let me tell you, when we tried to pass and did the last public safety reform bill, and we were in the Senate, and we were telling Senator Limmer about the BIPOC caucus, which is the people of color, Indigenous communities caucus. He's like, he didn't even know what we were talking about. And it wasn't new. They just weren't paying attention. And now they know who we are. And they're currently, yes, that is exciting. So there are currently candidates that are running right now that could change the whole landscape of the 2022 election. But it shouldn't have taken this long. Representation, as was said earlier, does matter. 20% of Minnesotans identify as part of the BIPOC community, yet only 12% state legislators identify as BIPOC. And in the Minnesota, it's even less, and only 6 BIPOC senators out of the 67 members serving in the Senate. And unfortunately, like I mentioned, redistricting, there's a lot of women coming out because they were placed with another woman, or they were placed with another man, and a lot of women are leaving the legislature because of redistricting, which is the census and how we make sure that we have a map that represents our state. And in my case, I got redistricted with a colleague, and I decided not to challenge my colleague, which is a very difficult decision and personal. And I'm still moving forward. I'm at peace with it. Again, I'll work it legislatively and another method and another way that I was usually seeing. So we all know that representation is a glaring issue in the state legislature, and we need to elect more people of color and uplift the voices of the mighty minority, and to do a better job of attracting people of color into government. When we have a diverse voice in the Senate advocating for our community's needs, we produce better and more thoughtful work. Absolutely do. When we create an inclusive environment for people of color to shine and share their ideas in the workplace, we do better for Minnesotans. And there's an active active support for the Capital Pathways program in the legislature. As you all know, we have gained prepared and qualified people doing this great work, ready to thrive in government roles. If they like what they see, they might be repulsed after a while, but I think a lot of you just end up getting the bug and coming back in one way, shape, or form. And when you are in the room advocating on policy, sharing our views, or coming up with new ideas, your work can help all Minnesota. You know how legislation works at the Capitol, and advocates like you help shape those pieces of legislation. During the COVID-19 pandemic, I worked really closely with advocates for legislation that would help support minority-owned businesses that were struggling. And during the civil unrest after the murder of George Floyd, we worked with my Senate colleagues to provide support for minority-owned businesses on Lake Street and other parts of Minneapolis and St. Paul. And we supported businesses that many of us frequent. And having people of color serve in the legislature and advocating for projects is an integral for passing appropriations for programs for our communities of color. I've been a strong supporter of the Capital Pathways program since its inception in 2016, because of the program involves a mutually beneficial relationship for all parties involved, and participants get to gain access in relationships with all of you, our future leaders and legislators, and get to work with more people of color overall. Providing an opportunity for interns to build relationships in and around the Capitol is critical for building a network of government connections, which will help you break into the government sector. It's a lot of it still is who you know and where you met. And like I said earlier, this feels like a reunion. We are all kind of part of this network and environment that you'll never be away from. You'll always be part of. It also gives you an opportunity to experience and see the different pathways for government careers. As you know, roles can differ in the government sector, and the work of a legislative assistant in the Minnesota Senate might be more constituent focused and a lobbying firm advocating for the needs of multiple clients, ranging in policy jurisdictions, and a policy aide at a nonprofit focus might be more focused on specific needs to help them thrive. But we're all needing each other in these positions, and all these roles need people of color and representation, including my caucus. We are currently hiring in the Minnesota Senate, so please look us up, and there's a few roles opening up, and we'd love to see your application. You'd be shocked to hear that many times we have an opening and we have 0 people of color applying. 0. Not acceptable. We'd love to see more BIPOC candidates in our candidate pool. And these skills will make you more incredibly marketable and desirable for roles in our caucus and in other roles of government. Overall, my experience in the Minnesota legislature and my journey through government has been quite unique and unpredictable, but also just a fascinating ride. All of your experiences so far are unique as well. We all bring this uniqueness into our life and work. You have taken the plunge into learning more about your roles in the government, and you should be proud of that. We need more people like you to explore government roles and stay in these roles. People of color are grossly underrepresented in this work. Capital Pathways is our first step in changing that. So I'll now welcome, I'm done with my remarks, but I would say that the person I'm introducing used to work for the legislature in the Senate, and she also was one of my very first volunteers of my campaign, literally part of my 3-person volunteer team to win and flip the Minnesota Senate back in 2012. I want to welcome Citizens League Policy Director Blanca Martinez Gavina to the stage to lead a panel discussion on creating pathways to policy for BIPOC communities and why representation matters, and how these efforts are still so critical in making Minnesota to be more inclusive and more accountable to its diverse communities today. And yes, Blanca, I owe you my Senate seat, and I don't say that lightly. Door knocking in the middle of the summer, in some instances, could be really dehydrating. I'm so excited to hear from this amazing panel and for composed of this year's students and one program alum. And please join me in welcoming them to the stage, and thank you very much for having me here, part of this celebration.
Thank you so much, Senator Lopez Franson. I do have to say, door knocking, you get a lot of ideas of places you would love to live, especially in Edina. I Well, I am so excited for this part of our program. And as Senator Lopez Franson mentioned, this is really the meat of our program, right? We want to hear from these amazing students and alum. So help me welcome to the stage. We will have three wonderful panelists today. We will have our current, or well, not current, but from this past cohort. Let's welcome the Barris Cheeks. A little bit of a step. And then help me welcome Natividad Herrera Garcia. And last but not least, Oren Chowdhury, an alum from our Capital Pathways. Okay, so we're just gonna start with getting a little bit of just background. Just tell us a little bit about yourselves, your journey, and let's start with you, Natividad.
Is it working now? Sorry, that was a bad idea. Hi, everyone. My name is Natividad Herrera Garcia. My pronouns are she, her. And a little bit about me is that I'm a social work major at St. Catherine University, and I also minor in critical studies of race and ethnicity. My interests are in meso work, also macro policy and systems change. And this past session, I had the great opportunity of interning.
We're gonna stick to one mic.
I had the great opportunity of interning with Greater Twin Cities United Way as their policy intern, and we did a lot of work with the benefits cliff, and I felt really passionate about it. And yeah.
I was about to ask because I'm over the mess. Perfect. Well, my name is Devaris Cheeks. I'm an undergraduate student at Concordia University in St. Paul. I'm going into my senior year, so this will be my fourth year here at Concordia. I'm a public relations major with a double minor in business management and marketing. A few fun facts about me. I am on the football team there, so go Golden Bears. I also recently just got elected as student body president, so I'm looking very forward to that this upcoming school year. And I had the privilege to be an advocacy intern for Goodwill Easter Seals. Some of the different things that I did for that company was I was doing a lot of like bill tracking, a lot of different advocacy work within different programs with the company, such as like the re-entry program that focuses on providing opportunities for people with a criminal record and just allowing them to have job opportunities and different things of that nature with like Second Chance Day on the Hill and different work in that nature. And yeah, I won't go too far in depth, but that's just a little bit about me.
Hi everyone, my name is Oren Chowdhury. I use she, they pronouns, and currently for my day job, I'm a senior policy aide at the City of Minneapolis to the Ward 9 Council office. I am a community organizer, political strategist, and campaign consultant, and I had the honor and privilege of being a part of the first Capital Pathways cohort in 2016. And it's so amazing to see that we're at the 7th cohort, so another round of applause for yourselves. Like, it's amazing. When I started, I was a freshman in college, and I ended up graduating in 2019 with a degree in political science and sociology and criminology and deviance. That is not what I came into doing. I thought I was going to be a doctor, but that very quickly changed in 2016 as our political climate shifted and the need for BIPOC representation was really, really high and still is. Things that I'm really passionate about working on is on the campaign side, supporting Black, status. And then on the policy side of things, like, there are so many rooms that I've been in where I am the only person of color, or maybe there's one other person, and that voice and that perspective and coming in with that level of empathy has always been very critical in work, especially when you are trying to connect communities and better the material conditions of people's lives. So I'm very passionate about housing, addressing our unhoused crisis, and just in a moment of great division, healing the divide, especially at the local level.
Thank you so much. Can we just get a round of applause for these amazing people? So, Natividad, I'm gonna start with you. Can you tell us a little bit about your understanding of public policy before you started this program, and how has that impacted your life or maybe your future career aspirations?
So my understanding of public policy before starting this internship program was actually very limited. A lot of the times I had seen how policy affected families like mine, but I didn't see myself being able to affect the policy that was affecting us. And so for a lot of times I didn't feel like I fit in policy or that any of this work was for me. But now being in the program, I'm just so thankful because seeing my other cohort members, the alumni, I know that there's a place for us, and I know that everyone in the room is going to make huge change. But I also think I've learned a lot about what it means to be on the ground and in community and public policy. I think working with our nonprofit partners, being in coalitions, all of that matters so much when it comes to this. And yeah, it's really changed the way I think about things, especially as a social work major, of what I can do being in direct service, but also being in that public policy realm.
Yeah, so before stepping into this program, I didn't know anything about public policy. I literally stepped into this role because a faculty member just like recognized me as like a student leader in our campus, and he's like, yeah, like BIPOC leaders, like there's this program going on, and I just hopped into it. I said, cool. Oh, paid? Even better. So just like starting off, like when they were talking about like bills and stuff like that, like I heard the word bill and I was like, oh, like bills, like the stuff like paying rent, like, you know what I'm saying? But like, so like that's like really what my understanding was. And going through this program has completely shifted that. Like I feel so much more confident about how these policies move, how we're able to work, how we're able to advocate for different things and actually be a part of the change and see like tangible changes in our communities, on our campuses, even just like in the state of Minnesota. Like even though we're in these positions of just, maybe being an intern or whatever it is, like we are part of the change and the impact. So just being able to understand the process and how things work. I know we mentioned before, like sometimes it can be a little bit like discouraging, and sometimes things move a little bit slower, but like you could really see like the different opportunities that we're providing for people that might not be as fortunate or might not be in positions where they can advocate for themselves. So just really elevating the voices of people and understanding how it all works in the long run. My understanding has completely shifted. So I'm really thankful for the opportunity to learn more.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I had not a clue coming in. I felt what you felt, like as a first generation American, like I'm sure a lot of you are, or as like the oldest child of immigrants in a household, like you see the ways that systems impact your lives, and oftentimes like you feel it in your body and you see it show up in like your parents and siblings, and like it's so hard to name. And I knew that like I wanted to be a part of like shifting those systems because they hurt and they weren't inclusive, and I knew that we could do better because there is just so much hope in this room for that like better world that we are all dreaming and fighting for. And when I was like 18, 19 and I saw Capital Pathways, like a Google form, the first one like pop up and be told by some friends, hey, you're interested in this, you should apply for it. And I saw that it was paid. I was like, oh, I can do this. Like, I need to help pay tuition and do all of these things. And like, this is a paid internship, and it really opened a door for me. And like, I still today work with so many people from like the Capital Pathways Network, and coming in and working at Education Minnesota, I got to learn a little bit more of the technical things of like what happens inside of the Capitol and how policy is moved. And I learned and understood that what policy is like really our voices shaping the system and like the framework of how something can be possible. And like, if you think about your households, if you think about your ancestors and your culture, like, we have a very different way of thinking about things and framing things and including people in like a Western and very white dominated world. And so when you have us in a space to craft that framework, it's a cataclysmic type of change. And so that's something that I learned along the way, starting with not learning or not knowing anything. And I'll be frank with you, even in this work, now I'm 25, still working in it, there are so many times where I meet people that don't know what they're doing, and myself included, but you can learn it and you can pick it up, and like every day is like a continuous journey in understanding policy and how it like affects us all.
Thank you, everyone. And if you haven't heard the message that kind of links everything together this evening, is that the long-term goal of Capital Pathways is to create a more representative and inclusive government here in Minnesota, but also communities and those who lead us. So thinking about Capital Pathways, your experiences with Capital Pathways, what do you hope comes next for this program, or ways that you can envision Capital Pathways continue to make an impact, or ways that maybe it can be improved? We'll start with you, Natividad.
Like I said before, I think this is an incredible experience. There's been nothing like it. This internship program is so unique to me, in the way that we, as cohort members, work together, we talk, we learn about, our different sites and things like that, and really just find community in each other. I think that's always very important, and that's one of the things that I love about this program, is that we're not just interns separately, we're interns together. And then, as much as I love the program, I also know that there could be so much more done. My cohort, I feel like, was very large, but it could also be larger. There's tons of other students like myself who would have loved to have an opportunity like this, a paid opportunity. I always think that there's such a barrier to internships, and like, for me, seeing that this was a paid opportunity was really amazing. I am not able to take on unpaid internships. It's just not something I'm able to do as I'm paying my way through college, as I'm helping with family expenses. So that's a really great aspect of this program, and if that could be expanded, if more students could be there, I think obviously that's the best alternative.
Yeah, I echo what Natividad said, and also too, like kind of the general theme that we've been talking about too, right? Like we know that this work is dominated by, it's a predominantly white field, and you feel that when you go to the Capitol building, or when you're hopping in these meetings, or even some of the companies that we might work for, like we feel the minority, like we are the minority most of the time, and my hope for this program is that we continue. It blew my mind. Like, I've been working here for 5 months, and when Kalia was talking about, like, man, we're the only program that does this, that really like opened my eyes, and I'm just like thinking to myself, why? Like, why aren't there more people trying to like change that climate? I don't know, like, I always tell my friends and my family, like, a lot of these different policies and stuff that I've learned about, like, sometimes it gets blown out of proportion. It gets blown into a scale that like seems like it's hard to understand, or you don't really know how the things move. But all of these issues and stuff that we're like advocating for, and stuff we talk about every day, like we're talking about like unemployment, the things that people are like on the streets like protesting for and like advocating for and pushing for, like these are the different bills and policies that we're following and advocating for within these companies and within these programs and coalitions coalition. So like it all links, and if we could just bring it down to that scale and make it more like reachable for people, I think that the impact that this program has provided for me is really opened my eyes to like it's possible, like the possibilities and the way that we can impact people and touch people just by like talking, honestly just telling them about this experience and hopefully getting more people involved as well. So.
That was awesome. I won't go too long into it, but I will say I hope I am working with y'all. I hope I'm working with all of y'all. You're gonna get dropped into this super awesome alumni Facebook group and like alumni network, and I hope you will message me and we'll be in community together. I mean, I see so many faces in this room that I'm like still in community with, and I see them regularly. Adrian, Tatiana, Kalia, Hube. And that's what I hope for this program is that our network keeps on building and we keep on supporting one another, and in those spaces we see each other and we realize like we have an ally and we're gonna build something powerful, especially as we come up against the really, really big fights in Minnesota.
Thank you so much. So can we please just give one round of applause to this amazing folks? Thank you so much for sharing your stories, for sharing your experiences. And if you ever have questions, if you ever want to network with these amazing folks, please do. We just have such talent and again, so many alums. So there's always an opportunity to connect. So thank you so much. And now I'm going to pass it off to. Oh, yes, I'm sorry. We will welcome Kalia back to the stage.
Okay, can I have, our students, let's stay. You could go back to your seat. Thank you. This way. Sorry, you all, some logistical difficulties. Anyway, can I please have our 2022 cohort students make their way up to the stage? So everyone who is here with us, please make your way to the stage. You're gonna make your way over here. And can I have, yeah, can I have the board, please? Okay, so this is my favorite portion of our program every year, and it is when we really highlight and recognize our amazing student cohort. So this year, because we're finally in person again, we have the chance to actually congratulate them, all their hard work, all of their commitment, and their ability to learn and to work together and to build community. We're going to present them all with certificates for graduating from the program. What we're going to do so that the students are aware is we'll just call out your name, and if you can then just make your way up to accept your certificate from Blanca, and then make your way back to stand right in front of us like this again so that we can take a photo. That will be amazing. Thank you. All right, so can I get Alejandro Caceres Aranda? Akia Bain. Ang Nguyen. Itman Ibrahim. Gaunu Yang. Maria Vila. Natividad Garcia. Davaris Cheeks. Camille Terrell. Karina Valita. And last but not least, Rihanna Stiff. We're going to get one photo with everyone holding up their certificates. Thank you so much, Jesse. And again, please join me in applauding our amazing group of students this year. Again, congratulations for all your work this session. And I know you're all going to go on and do such amazing things in community. Thank you so much to this year's cohort.
Awesome. You just got fired from the top row. It's a tough gig. All right, stay with us for a moment. Yes.
Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Well, congratulations to our students. It has been such a pleasure to get to know you this year. You can take your seat. I'm just going to wrap our program up tonight. My name is Kate Cimino, Executive Director at Citizens League. And what an awesome day. What an awesome panel. Great keynote from Senator Franson. It is such a gift to be with you in this room. I want to thank Mount Zion for the ability to be in the space together today. You heard Kalia say at the beginning, at the outset tonight, Kalia said, you made a choice. Every one of us made a choice to be here, maybe a series of choices that got us here tonight. Oh God, I want everyone the flowers. You made a choice that brought you here. And what I think each of us really craves is to know that our choices are good ones, that we're making choices that are doing something good, having an impact. Right? You want that confidence, that optimism that the choices you're making are leading to something good. Well, I hope you saw it this afternoon. I know I did. I saw that these choices that you were making to support this program, the choices our students made to show up during, God, a really weird time in the world to just say, yeah, I'm gonna do this thing. I'm gonna take a chance. I'm gonna give it a go. The choices our hosts made to be hosts, to stick with this program, some of you for all 7 years, it matters. It truly matters, and it truly makes an impact. And I take great confidence in that. This is the shining, glowing light of Citizens League. We know how much we love this program, and all of you do as well. So if you were moved by what you saw tonight, I'm gonna ask you, as Kalia did in the beginning, if you're able at any level to support this program. Every gift matters. I want you to pick up your little thing here. There's a little QR code. You can just scan that. It takes you right to the donate page, super easy. You can text, there's a text to give, I'll tell you the number. It's 243-725. 243-725. And there's also envelopes on the table. If you'd rather write a check, write down your credit card number, you can just leave that on the table, leave it in the blue envelope on your table, and we'll pick them up. Thank you. I know many of you in this room have already donated to support this program, to support Citizens League. It matters. So thank you for your support. It truly matters to our students, and your gift today is going to go directly to next winter, our 2023 cohort, the 8th cohort, to cover their orientation and legislative training. So we deeply appreciate your support, and you can feel confident and good that it is a great choice that really, really makes a difference. So I want to thank our event sponsors and program funders. I want to give a shout out to Juve and Annie, who are here, two of our co-founders. It was their vision that started this program. And when I came in, Juve said, there's over 200 alumni? I thought there were like 70 or something. So no, there's over 200, and that's the legacy that you two and others have left. So we're deeply grateful. I want to talk about Kalia for a minute, because great things like Capital Pathways don't just happen. They happen because there are wonderful people with passion and vision who show up every single day and go above and beyond. Kalia Zhang, you are one of those people. You are at the heart of Capital Pathways. Let's give Kalia a round of applause. Our whole Citizens League team, there's only 6 of us, so everyone on our team has some connection to this program. So I want to thank our whole team, Jacob, Sarah, Laura, Blanca, for everything you do to contribute to this program as well, year-round, and especially today to make this beautiful event happen. You'll see these gorgeous flowers on the table. These bouquets were designed by our Citizens League team. I'm just going to tell you that if we all just disappear one day, we will have gone and opened a floral shop, because we are good at it. So you are welcome to leave the vases, but take the flowers themselves if you want to take any home with you, but please leave the vases here at the venue. Lastly, I want to thank and acknowledge our students one more time, this year's student interns. You made that choice, you showed up. And Senator Franson said, that's the first step. You just show up. And then it's a little easier to show up the next time and the next time, right? So all of us at the League, we're so excited to see the next steps of your journey. We're here for you. Call on us anytime. We want to see and support you in your next steps. And you can count on us and on the Alumni Network. And I want you to know that we're starting up some neat new projects looking at creating more connections between Capital Pathways alumni and the rest of Citizens League's work. And that's ongoing, but I guarantee you'll hear from us about that. So we'll be in touch. So that is our evening. I want to thank all of you for taking the time to be here with us today. Thank you for your support of Capital Pathways, your commitment to investing in BIPOC youth and the future of our state. It is a bright one. I know it. I'm an optimist. I choose to live in that space. I look out and I see it. So thank you for being here. Have a wonderful evening.